Not what I came down here in behalf of my brother to see. That thing last night, that's a damn disgrace. And I'm going to leave y'all with that, man. I just say, we just got to continue on with what we doing. No matter how much they keep getting violent, we study proving it, they not going to stop.
The Greater Rochester Black Agenda Group's public statement on the murder of Daniel Prude, the murder of Daniel Prude, and inconsistent actions from the Rochester Police Department, Mayor Lovely Warren, and other elected officials. The Black Agenda Group is outraged by the recent news of the death of Mr. Daniel Prude murder that occurred in Rochester, New York. We extend our heartfelt condolences to his family, friends, and to our village as a whole over this loss. As a collective of concerned citizens declaring racism as a public health crisis, this particular tragedy exemplifies the common results of health disparities faced by black people. After watching and debriefing recent press conferences held by Mayor Lovely Warren, Chief Laurent Singletary, we are terribly concerned by the number of inconsistencies in the statements made by the mayor, the chief of police, and corporation counsel, the district attorney's office, and the attorney general. This includes misrepresenting Executive Order 147 as well as the timeline of events. There needs to be clarity about the date in which the mayor was notified, when the case was referred to the district attorney, and when the case was referred to the attorney general. We call for an investigation under oath and in public, to be initiated by the Rochester City Council. The council shall retain an independent investigator to question the mayor, the police chief, and corporation counsel. We call for an independent investigation of the Joint Commission of Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations into the University of Rochester Medical Center, into both interactions between the institution and Mr. Prude. All individuals should be able to express their right to protest without being victimized by law enforcement. We call for the mayor to order an immediate stand down of police in response to protests. Ban any aggressive action from the Rochester Police Department that initiates contact with protests, including forbidding the use of pepper spray, rubber bullets, and riot gear in response to protests. We call for the Rochester Police Department to drop any charges accrued during protests beginning on Wednesday, May 30th, 2020. As a collective of concerned citizens, we believe in transparency, honesty, and forthrightness. Elected officials work on our behalf, on behalf of the people. At no time should the public be left in the dark when a situation of this magnitude occurs. Mr. Prude's death is a tragedy, and nobody deserves to die at the hands of those entrusted to protect and serve. We urge the Attorney General's office to expedite the investigation so that justice is served. In service, the Greater Rochester Black Agenda Group.
The cover-up is worse than the crime.
Say that again.
The cover-up is worse than the crime.
What I experienced last night after a beautiful march through my beloved community and a show of community-wide support to the family of Daniel Prude was both appalling and shameful, while joining in a chant asking why our public servants charged with public safety were donning helmets, batons, rifle-style guns, and I was overcome with anticipation of what was my worst fear. I stood horrified for the young people I had moments before looked at proudly as they passionately changed and marched for change in our community as their civic duty for change and what is simply right, the acknowledgement of their humanity. As a mother, business owner, educator and a community support to the young people through their artistic and social justice for years. I was afraid for their lives and for the lesson being taught that outsiders from our community are being paid to terrorize them in the worst way, even when they are not committing a crime. Last I checked, standing on a sidewalk singing and chanting was not a crime. In fact, when my youth ask what can we do, I remind them of this very tradition that our ancestors have used as resistance and collective power. My question is simple. Who is calling the orders? Whose commands are being followed? As a veteran of the U.S. Army, I recognize the requirement of the uniform to follow orders, but I am at a loss for who called these orders against unarmed civilians, chanting and honoring the death of another unarmed community member. And this is not the first time I've asked this question. It has become apparent that this is what we can expect from those that we have hired to serve us, not terrorize us. It is extremely hard for me to remain calm and diplomatic while young people are in danger and that at the hands of the state, at the hands of hostile racists with guns. I'm angry, disturbed, and traumatized. But mostly, I'm proud of their strength, their perseverance, and their fire. We press on toward the greater good. Black lives matter. 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 Black lives matter.
They do. I just want to speak to our experience from last night. We watched a beautiful rally for the last 2 days take place on Jefferson and McCree, a place that we don't necessarily see filled with joy due to the intentional actions of the city in underserving these areas. But these areas have been filled with joy for the last 2 nights, even in the midst of the pain that's been going on. But then we also watch people who are afraid to leave those communities to come down here because they knew what we would be facing coming down to the public safety building. We were forced out of downtown last night. We were forced out of downtown with rubber bullets, pepper spray, being pelleted from every corner. We watched officers pretend they were playing a video game, hide behind cars.
maybe this wouldn't have happened to Daniel Prude. Enough is enough. It's been too long. The system needs to change now.
On the law, are there steps to get the law passed? Has legislation been written or introduced anywhere? Or is there a timeline?
So we've spoken to a council member about this, and she's aware that it's going to take the support of the county executive, and the county and the city will have to partner on this. I also want to point out our county executive, Adam Bello, has been extremely silent about police murders. His brother, Gregory Bello, was on site when this happened, so it's absolutely disgusting that he hasn't said anything. He hasn't done anything to make any changes and hold them accountable. So we need to hold Adam Bello also accountable and ask why our county executive is not doing anything and is not taking the lead and working with city council to create legislation and pass laws that protect our community.
And Representative Joe Morelli should.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Last night, did you guys have any hospitalizations, any serious? I know you mentioned, I saw some people with the medics, but I just wanted to know.
So we had extremely serious injuries last night. A man was shot in point blank range and had glass go into his eye. We're not sure if he's going to be able to keep the eye. While he was on the ground bleeding from his eye, medics were told, if you don't leave and leave your bags, you will be arrested. That is absolutely deplorable, disgusting, and inhumane. We had someone beat up. He has a kidney injury. We had people continuously shot in the face who had to go to the hospital. So quite a few people were hospitalized last night. A lot of people were running away, and while they were moving back, they were shot. Ashley Gann's car, the cops tried to break and smash her windows just to try to arrest everyone in her car while she was driving away.
And the lawsuits are coming.
Absolutely. We plan on filing lawsuits to protect our safety, to make changes in this community, and to hold everyone accountable.
The question is, who gives those type of orders?
Absolutely.
To do this to a peaceful protest? Who gives that type of order to do this to peaceful protesters? Where does that come from? And those are the questions that you all have to ask. Yes. Now, either you're with Black Lives Matter or you're not. And I don't care if you're journalists or anything else like that, there's a side that you have to stand on, and it's the side for right. Somebody is ordering the suppression of protests, which is wrong. It's against our Constitution and everything else like that, or we wouldn't come out. We wouldn't even have a country if you couldn't come out and protest. And this is our tradition. When we're not heard, you understand, we take to the streets. That's right. That's our history. That's right. You understand? And that has to be protected. And when it's not being protected, you understand, we should hear about that in the media. So I'm very interested to see what type of coverage we're going to get tomorrow. That'll let me know about you all out here. Because if we have to start seeing you all as the problem also too, then the protest should turn on you also as journalists. There's no middle ground on this one here. There's just no middle ground on it whatsoever. Either we're with what is right, you understand, or we're going to stand for what is wrong.
And to comment on what he just said, I wake up this morning, I see my name in news articles, but above my name I see bottles and rocks being thrown at the police. I never threw any rocks or bottles at the police. And on top of that, when I'm arrested in there last night on a violation, I have police trying to take me upstairs to the 4th floor to a felony interrogation unit for a violation. What type of city do we live in where you take a man to a felony investigation unit for a violation? I refused to go. They were willing to escalate the situation to the point where they removed me from the room that I was in and tried to take me upstairs. I told them I wasn't going. You're already in enough hot water as it is, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to escalate this to the point where it's going to get ugly, because I was not going to move. These are the types of animals that we're dealing with this police department. Willing to escalate violations to felonies because I wasn't moving and I was going to stand on that ground. It wasn't until a black police officer came into the room and told his officers, why are we getting ready to escalate a situation to a level where we can't come back down from? We need police, if we're going to have them in our community, that can logically think in the time of crisis. If you can't logically think in a time of crisis, then we need to let the professionals respond to these situations. Why are you taking individuals to the 4th floor? If you know about the public safety building, you know about the 4th floor. People don't come back from the 4th floor. And the excuse was that I wasn't ready to go home off a violation. Most violations are handled at the window in there. You don't even have to get in handcuffs to handle a violation. False charges being trumped on people in there. They said I was resisting arrest when I offered myself to go to jail because I couldn't get my car. Initially, I was charged with resisting arrest, harassment in the second, and disorderly conduct. It wasn't until, like I said, the black officer stepped in and told them that we're not going to go forward with the resisting arrest because the officer who said I was resisting arrest wasn't even outside. You have to understand the level of manipulation that's going on with the RPD. And I'm going to continue to say it, and I hope everybody hears me loud and clear. Lovely Warren knew from day one. No excuses. We're not giving her no cop-outs. Lovely Warren knew about this situation from day one. Our city officials knew about this situation from day one. And if it was announced as a drug overdose, do they not count? Do they not count? So if you overdose in this community, which is another crisis, right? You're telling the people that, oh, because it's a drug overdose, it doesn't count. And then the contradiction comes in when the Attorney General office has to step in. You weren't made aware even then if it was a drug overdose. Listen to the narrative that the people are giving y'all. And when you report on this stuff, report on it accurately. Call her out. Y'all know she lying. Stop asking us. Y'all heard exactly what we heard. Y'all heard the contradiction on day one and then the cover-up on day two. Yes. This is a 6-month cover-up, and honestly, in small Rochester, New York, this is one of the worst cover-ups in this nation's history surrounding police brutality and murder in this community, right here in Rochester, New York. If y'all can report, y'all can make some careers right now because you have a big story in the corruption that's going on at City Hall.
25 Church Street.
So, some of us here were arrested the other day, soon after the release of Daniel Prude's video was actually released, literally hours, if not a couple hours, actually right after the release of the video was released. The 4 of us and a few other activists were, arrested, and we were held in that excessive detention. We had no idea what was going on. And it was only because we decided that it was our right to not only bring in the Prude family to the press conference being hosted by the mayor and the police chief, but that it was our right to also hear out what the police chief and the mayor were actually also saying about the video. We knew that it was a cover-up. We knew what it is that they had to hide. And it was our duty to go in and hear the full story. And so while we were sitting there, we were each put into separate rooms, in those excessive detention rooms, on the 4th floor, not knowing how long it would take. We asked to give us an ETA. We asked for medical attention. Stanley asked for medical attention, and instead she was treated with sarcasm by the officers. Repeated officers outside in the hallways had no idea why we were actually being held, while other officers said we needed to be held. Absolutely, for Stanley. And so I think it's really important to I'm sorry, not like literally, but no, but it's really important to recognize that they had no idea what it is that they're actually trying to get done. These officers are not to be trusted. All they tried to do was silence us. They wanted to make us crazy. They escalated. They removed everybody out of this building for an apparent break-in when all we were trying to do was attend a press conference. That's all we were trying to do in a public building. It is not trespassing to enter a public building. It is crucial for us to understand just what these officers are capable of. They tried to silence us because they understand what it is that we're actually trying to do here, and that's to seek justice for the Prude family and for all other victims whose videos have not yet been released. There are so many other videos of people that have not yet been released, and I'm sure they are yet to come. And it's important to recognize just what it is that they've done for us. I don't know if you want to add anything.
You got it.
You got it. Sorry.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's no more questions.
If just for the record, if everyone that spoke today could just come up and say and spell their names.
Absolutely.
Ashley Gant, ASHLEYGANTT.
Stanley Martin, STANLEY MARTIN.
Rena Golden, REENAHGOLDEN, and you are Miss Melanie Funches.
F-U-N.
I just wanted to make sure you get your spelling in there correctly.
MELANIE. F is in Frank. UNCHE. S is in Sam. S is in Sam. Fun chest. Fun like to have fun, chest like the game with the rooks and the pawns.
It's
Which
Tanya.
one will not be?
We won't be. It's Tanya Noel, TONYANOEL.
Iman Abid, IMAN ABID.
Hanif Abdul Wahid. HANIF, Hanif Abdul Wahid, ABDUL-WAHID.
Justin, JUSTIN, Morris, MORRIS.
Excuse me. I might just do this, bro. Just to be quick. I got 2 minutes.